The clock had just passed midnight when the PhilSports Arena stopped feeling like a building and became one continuous roar. More than 8,000 fans had gathered for a free public watch party, and on the giant screen at the front of the arena, Alex Eala had just claimed the second set against Jasmine Paolini, 6-4, forcing a deciding set in their Wimbledon round of 16 showdown. This is what people now call the Alex Eala effect. It isn't measured by statistics. It isn't defined by headlines. It's measured by moments like this. An arena filled with thousands of people in a country that, until recently, had little presence in professional tennis, staying awake well past midnight on a Monday to watch a 21-year-old from Quezon City compete on the grass courts of Wimbledon, thousands of miles away, with a place in the Grand Slam quarterfinals at stake. Eala would eventually lose the deciding set. She would lose the match. But somehow, the arena only grew louder. Because by then, the result was no longer the only thing people were celebrating. They were witnessing history, and they knew they were part of it.
To thank everybody who is here.
Alex!
The atmosphere inside the arena was the part of the story that never appears on a tournament draw sheet. And it's exactly why this moment deserves a closer look. To understand why more than 8,000 Filipinos gathered inside the PhilSports Arena in Pasig well after midnight, you have to rewind 3 years, to a graduation ceremony on the Spanish island of Majorca. At the Rafa Nadal Academy graduation, the diplomas were presented by IGA Swiatek, then the world #1 and the reigning French Open champion. One of the young graduates walking across the stage that day was Alex Eala. 3 years later, on July 4, 2026, the student stood across the net from that same champion on center court at Wimbledon. And she won. Eala defeated the defending Wimbledon champion 7-6, claiming a dramatic first-set tiebreak 11-9 before closing out the match 6-2. It was one of the most remarkable full-circle moments the sport has seen in years. To appreciate just how extraordinary Eala's rise has been, it's worth looking back at where Philippine tennis once stood. Before Alex Eala, the highest-ranked Filipina in WTA singles history was Maricris Gentz, who reached world number 284 in 1999. Eala is now ranked world number 32, with expectations that her Wimbledon performance could lift her even higher. That isn't simply progress. It's an entirely different level. Which brings us to the most important question surrounding her rise. Are we witnessing a Cinderella story? Or are we witnessing a lasting transformation in Philippine tennis? Those are two very different things. And the distinction matters. Especially for Filipino sports fans who have seen promising young athletes labeled the future, before only to watch those expectations fade. The Cinderella argument isn't impossible to make. Eala is still only 21 years old. She has yet to win a WTA Tour singles title. Her Grand Slam resume is still relatively short. If someone wanted to argue that this is simply one unforgettable breakthrough, there is enough uncertainty to have that discussion. But when you examine the evidence carefully, a different picture begins to emerge. Earlier in 2026, Eala climbed to a career-high ranking of world number 29, the highest ranking ever achieved by a Filipina. Before Wimbledon even began, she had already captured the Birmingham title on grass, reached the semifinals in Berlin after defeating world number 2 Elena Rybakina, and earned the opportunity to play doubles alongside Venus Williams in Bad Homburg. Then she arrived at Wimbledon as a seeded player for the first time. And she defeated the defending champion on center court. That doesn't resemble a fairy tale built on one magical afternoon. It looks like steady progress. Even more importantly, her victory over IGA Swiatek wasn't an isolated surprise. She had already defeated her once before in Miami. Now she had done it again on the biggest stage in tennis. 2 victories over one of the greatest players of her generation in 15 months aren't explained by luck. They're explained by growth. That's why it's worth stepping back and examining the evidence in the order it actually unfolded. Not to exaggerate the story. Not to diminish it. Simply to understand what it truly means. One of the clearest signs came not from Wimbledon, but from the Philippines itself. When Eala's 4th-round match against Jasmine Paolini was scheduled to begin close to midnight in Manila, several government-supported organizations, including the Philippine Sports Commission, the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, and the Philippine Tennis Association, joined together to open the PhilSports Arena in Pasig for a free public watch party. The venue welcomed approximately 8,000 fans. That kind of national effort is usually reserved for championship boxing matches or major international basketball tournaments. Historically, it wasn't something associated with tennis in the Philippines. Yet for Alex Eala, it happened naturally. And perhaps most importantly, it didn't feel like a one-time celebration. It felt like the beginning of something much bigger. There had already been a public watch party for Eala's victory over the defending champion. And there will almost certainly be more as her career continues. That tells you something important. Every country loves to celebrate a breakout star. But this goes beyond excitement. Government agencies, sports organizations, and public institutions in the Philippines are now planning around Alex Eala's tournament schedule. That isn't an emotional reaction. It's a structural shift. Now consider what happened on July 4th. Center court. A prime-time evening match. The roof closed. Across the net stood the defending Wimbledon champion. Eala responded with the biggest performance of her career. She saved 8 of the 11 breakpoints she faced, struck 24 winners against just 21 unforced errors, and closed out the second set 6-2 to complete one of the tournament's biggest upsets. When the final ball landed, center court rose to its feet. Not because she had simply played well. Because she had earned it. But to truly understand the Alex Eala effect, you have to look far beyond Wimbledon. Wherever she competes, something unusual happens. Filipino flags begin appearing around the stadium. Then more flags arrive. Soon the chants begin. Families travel across countries. Students rearrange their schedules. Workers finish long shifts and head straight to the courts. Entire communities organize themselves around one tennis match. Earlier this season, fans packed a practice court just to watch Eala train. Not an official match. Not a semifinal. A practice session. That is something rankings cannot measure. Prize money cannot explain it. Statistics cannot capture it. What is moving isn't only a tennis player. It's an entire community. For 1 week, every tournament becomes a gathering place for Filipinos around the world. That is why Alex Eala's story has become bigger than tennis. Before her, the highest-ranked Filipina in WTA history had reached world number 284. Eala climbed all the way to world number 29. The difference isn't a few ranking places. It's more than 250 spots. In a sport with well over 1,000 ranked professionals, that isn't gradual improvement. It's a complete transformation. When historians look for comparisons, they naturally think of pioneers like Li Na in China or Sania Mirza in India, players who didn't simply improve their own careers, but fundamentally changed what athletes from their countries believed was possible. That is the company Alex Eala now keeps. Not because of marketing. Because of results. Respected voices across the tennis world have noticed. Former Olympic gold medalist and longtime ESPN analyst Mary Jo Fernandez described Eala's impact in simple but powerful terms. It's next level. She brings a whole new audience to our sport. That isn't praise from a hometown supporter. It's recognition from one of the most respected figures in international tennis. Veteran Filipino sports journalist Diane Castillejo offered another perspective. As Eala competed at Wimbledon, social media across the Philippines exploded with messages of pride. Phones buzzed constantly. Families stayed awake together. Millions followed every point. As Castillejo put it, every Filipino felt connected to the moment. Behind the scenes, Eala's longtime coach has focused on something equally important. Not the victories. Not the headlines. The challenge has been helping a 21-year-old stay grounded while carrying the expectations of an entire nation. The goal remains simple. Stay focused. Keep improving. Take one step at a time. Even Venus Williams, after partnering with Eala in doubles, described her with one phrase that carries enormous weight in professional tennis. Very competitive. Coming from one of the greatest champions the sport has ever seen, those two words say plenty. Now consider the broader picture. The Philippines is home to well over 100 million people. For decades, tennis occupied only a tiny corner of the country's sporting landscape. Then one player changed the conversation. Suddenly Filipino communities from Melbourne to Toronto, from London to Dubai, from Berlin to California, all had someone to rally behind. Not because they were told to. Because they wanted to. That's what cultural influence looks like. It isn't simply representing your country. It's helping your country see itself somewhere it has never belonged before. And perhaps that's the most remarkable part of Alex Eala's journey. She didn't replace anyone. She expanded the sport. At a tournament filled with Grand Slam champions, global superstars, and legendary names, one of the biggest stories belonged to a 21-year-old from Quezon City. Then came the reminder that every great sports story eventually delivers. She lost. 2 days after defeating the defending champion, Jasmine Paolini proved just a little stronger in the deciding set. The final score read 6-4, 4-6, 6-3. Eala's Wimbledon run came to an end. And that's important. Because real stories include setbacks. They don't pretend perfection. What mattered most was her response. She didn't blame the conditions. She didn't make excuses. She simply reflected on everything she had learned and focused on the positives from the best Grand Slam run of her young career. That response revealed just as much growth as any victory. So where does all of this leave us? It leaves us with a 21-year-old who walked onto center court and defeated the defending Wimbledon champion. It leaves us with thousands of fans gathering after midnight to support her, staying until the very last point, even in defeat. It leaves us with a player who has completely redefined what is possible for Philippine tennis. And perhaps it leaves us with one quote that captures the entire journey. After her victory over the defending champion, Alex Eala reflected on the little girl she used to be. I went to practice every day after school with my ruffled socks, light-up shoes, and chubby cheeks. To my younger self, this is everything. This is for my family and for every little girl with ruffled socks and chubby cheeks. 3 years earlier, she had walked across a graduation stage at the Rafa Nadal Academy and received her diploma from IGA Swiatek. On July 4, 2026, she stood across the net from that same champion on center court and defeated her. That's more than a full-circle moment. It's the beginning of a new chapter. The PhilSports Arena will fill again. The crowds will gather again. And Alex Eala's story is only getting started. With the North American hardcourt season and the US Open just around the corner, the next chapter is already waiting.